The silver Lexus was halfway across my driveway when the tow truck started dragging it backward into the street. Tires shrieking so loud it felt like the whole block might come running, except nobody actually did, at least not at first. I was just standing there on my front step with my coffee going cold, trying to figure out if I was still asleep or if this was really happening, when Karen Whitfield came charging out of her house like a linebacker with a pumpkin spice latte. Her HOA life, best life, shirt sparkling like she'd planned this whole scene as an Instagram reel. The way she flung herself onto the hood of that Lexus, you'd think she was auditioning for one of those true crime reenactments they play on basic cable at 2 in the morning, pounding the windshield, shrieking about neighborhood justice and how this was all just some kind of grand miscarriage, like she was the suburban Joan of Arc and her car was the last bastion of order. Now, the tow truck driver just kept doing his thing, barely even looking at her, like he sees this kind of drama every day, which maybe he does. That's when Officer Martinez, the guy who always seems to draw the short straw for HOA calls, showed up and started calmly explaining the rules. And right there, in front of half the cul-de-sac and 3 cell phone cameras already recording, Karen made what might be the single worst decision of her HOA career. She slapped him, full open palm, right across the face. The sound was so sharp, even the wind seemed to die for a second. I mean, that's not the sort of thing you can just walk back from, you know? Let me back up a sec so you can see how this all started. Because if you're like most people, you probably think HOA drama is just a bunch of middle-aged folks arguing about mailbox colors. But if you've ever actually lived in a place like Maple Ridge Estates, you know that underneath those manicured lawns and matching flower beds, there's a whole world of quiet warfare. My name's James Chun. I'm a software engineer, and I mind my own business. 5 years I've been here, always pay my dues, never let the grass grow above 2.5 inches. Never blast music past 10. I'm the guy who nods politely at the block parties, then goes back to fixing bugs for work. But 3 months back, I made one tiny, polite request. Could Karen, our HOA president, maybe stop sticking those soggy flyers under my windshield wipers every time it rained? I figured, put 'em in my mailbox, save me a little hassle, right? She hit me with that tight, fake smile and said she'd take my feedback under advisement. Next morning, there's another flyer, and that's when I realized this wasn't just a hobby for her. This was sport. Retaliation came fast. First, a citation for my flag being at 87 degrees instead of 90/20-$5. Then a $50 fine for leaving my porch light on during designated dark hours, which I had to look up apparently. That's 2 to 4 a.m. on weekdays. Because God forbid someone in this zip code ever needs to see where they're walking at night. One Tuesday, I get a warning for mailbox overflow. It was 3 p.m. I hadn't checked it since lunch. Felt like I was living in a sitcom, except the laugh track was just my bank account getting lighter. But parking, that's where Karen really shines. She decided she was the neighborhood parking czar. Even though I checked the HOA bylaws and there's not a single line about self-appointed parking enforcement. Anytime a friend visited for more than 2 hours, orange violation notes would blossom on their windshields like it was spring. If my own car's bumper was an inch past the line ticket. Once she tried to fine me because my car was facing the wrong direction in my own driveway. Yeah, that happened. So last Friday, my brother David comes down from Seattle, truck loaded with gear for the weekend. I move my Honda to the street totally legal, double-checked the relay so he's got space for his truck. I duck inside to start dinner, thinking I've finally got one over on Karen, and 20 minutes later I step outside and find her Lexus parked sideways. Emergency brake on, smack across my whole driveway. She'd even left a laminated official HOA business vehicle sign on the dash, like she was working for the Pentagon instead of running a glorified book club with a budget. Called her, straight to voicemail, texted nothing. Walked over, knocked on her door, watched her ignore me through the blinds. Next try, she cracks the door just wide enough for one eye and tells me, as president, I am legally allowed to occupy any communal use segment of land for official business purposes. Your driveway connects to the communal street, therefore it's under my jurisdiction during emergency assessments. Statute 7.3. Look it up. I went home, checked Statute 7.3 was about lawn ornaments. That's when it hit me. She's just making stuff up, hoping nobody checks. At that point, I did what any rational person would. I called the non-emergency police line, and told them my driveway was blocked by a car with an official sign and a whole lot of attitude. 15 minutes later, Officer Martinez shows up. I'd seen him before. Guy once arrested someone for spray painting their neighbor's fence over a property line squabble. He just looks at the Lexus, then at me, then at the HOA badge on her dash, shakes his head and goes, "Wanted gone." I nod. He radios for a tow and starts writing the ticket, all the while explaining loud enough for the neighbor across the street to hear that HOA rules don't trump city law. Even presidents have to follow the same rules as the rest of us. Of course, Karen's got Ring cameras everywhere, and the second she sees the tow truck roll up, she comes barreling out, still in curlers, latte in one hand, already yelling before she even hits the pavement. "This is harassment. I am the HOA president." She's pointing at Officer Martinez, demanding executive privilege, threatening to have his badge. Martinez, cool as a cucumber, just says, "Ma'am, you've illegally parked your vehicle in a private driveway. Move it now or it's getting towed." That's when Karen, standing there with half the neighborhood watching and at least 3 cell phones out, loses every shred of self-control. She slaps Officer Martinez loud, hard, the kind of slap you can hear 2 houses over. And suddenly, it's silent. Martinez, totally calm, just tells her she's under arrest for assault on a police officer and obstruction. He cuffs her right there, reading her Miranda rights while her latte explodes on the ground, and folks start filming with popcorn bowls in hand like it's Friday night at the drive-in. Tow truck hauls away the Lexus. Karen's yelling about discrimination, lawsuits, her husband being a lawyer, which everyone knows is a joke, since Todd works at H&R Block. Martinez even takes her HOA president badge for evidence. Actually had one custom made, gold trim and everything, which honestly says it all. Next morning, the HOA board calls an emergency meeting. Karen's still sitting in a cell. Janet, the vice president who always rolled her eyes at Karen's power trips, leads the charge. They vote her out unanimously, ban her from holding office for a decade, and when she finally bails out, she's staring down felony assault charges, 5 years in prison, $10,000 fine, all because she thought she was queen of Maple Ridge. The news spread fast. Video of her slap goes viral, 50,000 views overnight. The DA decides to make an example since it's all on camera. Karen has to hire a real lawyer, and the legal bills start piling up, more than she ever fined anyone over mailbox colors or porch lights. The board demotes her to seasonal bulletin coordinator. Basically, she can tape up flyers at the mailboxes a couple times a year, and that's it. 3 months later, she pleads down to a misdemeanor, gets a year probation, 200 hours community service, $5,000 in fines, and has to write formal apologies to Martinez and to me. She cries in court about how unfair it all is, how she just wanted to uphold community standards. The judge doesn't even flinch, tells her she's lucky she isn't going to jail. And just like that, the neighborhood starts to feel lighter, somehow. People start waving again when they walk their dogs. The new HOA president, Janet, quietly drops all the crazy rules. Turns out, nobody really cared if my flag was a couple degrees off, or if my brother's truck was parked for the weekend. But you want to know the kicker? A month after all this, a brand new flyer goes up on the community bulletin board, handwritten. No lamination. Block party this Saturday. No rules, just good vibes. Janet's signature at the bottom, little smiley face next to it. For the first time since I moved in, the whole street shows up. Even Todd comes by, brings a 6-pack, keeps his head down. Karen? She sits on her porch, watching, banned from the board but still peeking through the curtains, probably plotting her comeback. So what do you think? Was justice served? Or was it all just another episode of suburban chaos? Let me know down in the comments, whose side are you really on? And where's the line between keeping order and letting power go to your head? Hit subscribe if you've ever had to deal with an HOA president who thought they were above the law, or if you just want to see what happens next time someone tries to take over the block.